And all right, Kenny, our next guest, we're very, very pleased to have him, is Terry Swope from Lynxspring. Terry is the president, CEO of Lynxspring, and what a great company they have, Kenny. And so, Terry, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Eric. Appreciate it. It's fun to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you, my friend. Well, listen, for our listeners who might not know, tell us a little bit about Lynxspring.
Well, Eric, Lynxspring was started in 2002, but the genesis of it is that I had a consulting engineering firm for many years, business for 25, 13 years of the last shindig was a company. We specialized in restaurant, retail, and entertainment industry. And as a mechanical engineer, we were responsible for our customers' controls. And honestly, I never saw myself in the controls business, but our customers had campuses that were nationwide or worldwide in a lot of cases, Blockbuster and Discovery Zone and all the Kohl's stores and Brinker stores and Darden restaurants and all the Gap stores. And at the height of our company's business back in the late 90s, we were doing a little over $1.2 billion annually in construction.
Wow.
Not so much energy requirement, but how do you manage those kind of facilities on a nationwide basis? And candidly, at ASHRAE, I ran into the boys at Tridium. Would have been about 97, 98, somewhere thereabouts. And we looked into them, and it really fit our profile as an engineering firm. And we became a Vicon integrator at the time. And I'd like to tell you that it was real successful, but it was a struggle. It was a little difficult because of the size of the financial footprint and the real estate footprint. And so we worked real hard with Tridium to come up with a product that worked in the national account market. And if you have been around the horn a couple of times, you know that 405 Jace that they came out with in the late 90s, that was a direct result of working with us to manage national account basis. And after that, we became the TAC distributor for OEM. We were putting our controls on our customers' equipment at the factory. And so that started to kind of set the stage for me separating from my engineering firm. And we did so in 2002. In that gap from about 98 to 2002, we migrated from being a Tridium or Vicon system integrator to a Vicon system distributor and starting to build a channel. And then we found ourselves in 2002 facing a dilemma that as a consulting engineer, I needed to tell my customers, if we specified something for them and sold it as well, that I had an ethics responsibility to do that. That in and of itself was not a problem, but it's about the same time Sarbanes-Oxley came along. So we thought it better at that time to separate, and that's how we got started. And where we are today as a company, in 2002, 2003, and working with in a very close relationship with Tridium, we helped co-develop the present product offering that's out there today. JENEsys was born, first prototyped in 2005 and released at ASHRAE at 2006, actually even before the Vicon channel started to distribute it, and way before the large companies like Honeywell and Johnson Controls had adopted the technology. So we were kind of the first boys in the block. We're kind of proud of the fact that one time we were called Tridium West.
Nice.
We've gone on our own ways, and in 2005 became an OEM of Tridium. And today we represent a solely owned company that is heavily involved in integration with over 200 channel partners nationwide. We have about 50% of our revenue is in the OEM market. So we provide control solutions for manufacturers in the HVAC and lighting. As well, about 3 years ago, we got heavily involved in the energy market, even to the point that we started a subsidiary corporation called JENEsys that's working with the supply side and the demand side on energy. And we continue to grow. and that's kind of who we are. And
Well,
got a roadmap going forward as well. So.
well, wow, Terry, I tell you what, you guys just have a great reputation. As you know, we just recently came on as a distributor for Lynxspring, and I got to tell you, my experience with your company so far has just been outstanding. I mean, you got a great group of people, and we love working with you guys. And I want to thank you, sort of shift gears here for a minute, and thank you a little bit for loaning us Mark Peacock for the Control Trends Awards. As you know, he's not going to be Bond this year, Mark Bond, but we do have something special planned for the Control Trends Awards. And also thank you so much for your platinum sponsorship. We really, really appreciate that. So thanks for that. And listen, you guys are up for several categories. So I'd like you, your system is up for the 2013 DDC Control Systems of the Year. Tell our listeners a little bit about the system and what makes it special.
Well, you know, the whole premise behind the Niagara framework is this is a development tool. And we've embraced that since day one. It was just not a third-party integration platform or middleware as it's used most often. And we continue to push the barriers of controls as we optimize for energy and we optimize for building automation, and also push the envelope to take it beyond a highly centralized, specialized product and commoditize its ability to be used. And we saw that opportunity, frankly, in the national account arena. How do you get it in there and make it a tool that the end user can trust, can install simply, and you don't have to have a lot of the certified engineering that goes in the background. And we did that just based upon our knowledge of the applications that are required out there. And we continue to be extremely successful in that market, the small building market, national account. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's the same stuff for any end user. And that really sums up our philosophy as a company. I got the privilege, if you will, of a very famous man I met back in the 70s that said, if you help enough other people get what they want, you'll get what you want in return.
Nice.
That was Zig Ziglar.
Yeah, Zig Ziglar, that's right.
He told that to me to my face, and I've never forgotten it. And we built our entire company on that premise. And so, you know, being nominated by Control Trends for that is really kind of the icing on the cake for us. It shows that we stayed the course, and regardless of what the outcome of the award is, we're just proud to be a member of Control Trends and things that you guys are doing. So,
well, thank you so much, Terry. I can't tell you how much that means hearing that come from you. And wow, the Zig Ziglar story is great. I mean, he had an influence on me too. And sometime off camera, we're going to have to talk about all the influences. But you got to meet him, and the fact that stuck with you, and you've built your company based on that philosophy is a really, really cool thing, Terry. Yeah. Really cool. So, you know, one of the things that it sounds like, Terry, that Lynxspring does, and is you guys are sort of ahead of the curve. It seems like what you guys do is figure out what the market needs, and you guys go out and you create it. And another category you guys are nominated for is the best building application of the year with the Cyber Pro. So it seems like you guys are front running, understand the whole security threat through the building automation system, and are taking steps to remedy that. Now, speak a bit, if you would, about your guys' take on cybersecurity vis-a-vis building automation control systems, and tell us a bit about the Cyber Pro.
Well, you're exactly right. You know, what we try to do with everything we build is listen to our customers and determine what their pain is, and try to determine how we can solve their pain. Mixed with a whole lot of luck. I got to be candid with you. I'd like to think that we're geniuses here, but at the end of the day, we had a lot of government work that was coming up a couple of years, and we started down the cybersecurity walk, if you will, because we needed to harden our own product. But at the same time, I'd like to think that Lynxspring was riding on that edge of technology that ushered the internet into the building automation space. But in doing so, it's obvious today that that's created a lot of opportunity for opportunistic people or software, and created holes in the security space and cybersecurity. So we were well down the road of development when the news media got a hold of the vulnerability out there. And so we had hitched our post to a company that owns the majority share of cybersecurity in the world, and said, look, we got to come up with a mechanism that shores up some holes in the firewalls and the security that's out there today, and especially in the IT world. And when we showed them what the opportunity was, they jumped right on the bandwagon, and we developed the cybersecurity, the Lynx Cyber Pro product. Cybersecurity, like any security, whether it's physical or cyber based, is a layering system. There's not one size fits all. There's no panacea out there that's going to do everything for you. The BAS industry has done what they've got to do to make sure that they're secure now as a result of the bad press, and VPN and IT guys got to do their job, and so we've added another layer in covering up, and in this particular case, completely closing the attack surfaces within an IT system. And we think that that's one valuable point that can be done. And also, we took a cue from some of our own software. Our customers, when they realized that we'd put an audit trail or tracking system in there, they showed us that most of the cyber problems they have are internal. They're employees, or they have people that are that they have to deal with, and by virtue of the fact that they can see who's come in the system, who's tunneled through, where they've gone, what they've done, the reports have been outstanding on the success of this product. I'm not at liberty to say right now, but there's one of the largest shipping companies in the world, saltwater shipping companies, is getting ready to adopt the technology and put this literally on tens of thousands of ships, because satellite security is so subject to the same thing. So lots of opportunities there, and it goes back to the fact it's a development tool, and we want to just keep answering our customers' problems.
Well, congratulations, Terry. I think that product is very deserving. We've talked about it a lot on Control Trends. The sort of the elegance at which it sort of tackles that problem, and it seems like it's an easy solution, but very, very effective. So we're really glad. I mean, if you're in Georgia and want to buy one of those, please call us.
There you go.
For sure. So, Terry, the next award you're up for is you, dude, 2013 Control Trends Executive of the Year. And I got to tell you, I'm so pleased that our community recognizes you as one of the top executives. I got to tell you, I mean, we ask you to do an intro for Control Talk now, and what do? You pull out the guitar, man. You sing us a song. It was innovative. It was great. So I'm absolutely thrilled for that. But, and I know you're kind of a humble guy, but tell us a little bit, if you would. I mean, in your opinion, you mentioned your philosophy a little bit before, the Zig Ziglar quote, but there's some other sort of things that you either sort of lead out of, or that you believe in, or maybe even in the form of what advice would you give to somebody else that, how do you lead a great company like Lynxspring, and what makes a great executive? Well,
thank you for all your accolades. I'm honored to be here. It came with a lot of miles and a lot of flat tires along the way, but truthfully, my philosophy was taught to me way early on in my career, and I've stayed true to that. And I've heard it said so often that the greatest assets of a company are their employees. And I say it's actually one higher step than that. Our employees are our company.
Nice.
And without the surrounding of great people in my company, I couldn't have done anything that would deserve a nomination for anything, to be honest with you. It really boils down to surrounding yourself with good people, and then doing everything you possibly can do as the senior executive of the company to help them to be successful. And that includes a lot of attributes like training, but at the end of the day, it's the heart and the talent of the people that are in the company that make the company. And I'm just proud to be standing here with all these guys behind me. If it would turn that something, I got to go up and take a trophy. I mean, how do you drag the entire company up there? And that would be what's in my heart. And I would urge any young executive, there's an old adage that says you're only as tall as the guy's shoulders you're standing on.
Nice.
And that can be taken two ways. I tend to take it the way that I feel is respectful of the individuals that taught me how to get here. But I've seen people climb on top of other people to succeed, and at the end of the day, that's not going to serve you well. So I'm not going to pontificate anymore on how to run a company, but really it's the other people, and if I can serve them in such a way that helps them be successful in their own lives, and guide and direct them with true integrity, everything else will take care of itself.
Terry, well said. Well said. I tell you, it's like, you and I both been around the controls industry for a while, and if you think about it, I mean, your reputation's everything. Yeah. And, and that's the most important commodity we all trade on is trust and integrity. So it's really, really good to hear your philosophy, and it's so heartfelt. I mean, I totally get that. You may or may not know, our dad started our company about 50 years ago, and he raised my brother and I, who is my partner, sort of with the same sort of adage. It's like he would always say that, you do the right thing. Your employees are your most important asset. You've got to take care of them if you expect them to take care of your customers. And, he was the type of guy when he started, he was a rep and, with the territories and all. And it would be the type of thing that he'd call a rep up in another territory and go, well, we got this job. You need to part of the commission, even though other people might just say, well, I did this. But my dad was always, look, it comes back around, and it would be the type of things when we sold boilers, Terry. If we had a freezing weather like we have now and the boilers are out of stock, a lot of other distributors would jack their prices up. And my dad said, no way, because these are the same people that, when there's not a demand for that, they're going to remember that we treated them right. So yep. I love hearing this, man. I tell you, I could talk about the integrity aspect of it forever. But Terry, thanks for that. And listen, I gotta ask. I mean, I've seen you with a guitar. Mark tells me you just can wail on it. Now tell me about your love of music.
Oh gosh, my love of music started. Well, you were talking about your dad. My dad was a bluegrass fiddler when I was growing up, and in 1962, he bought me a Silvertone Dan Electric guitar. You remember the old guitars that the amplifier came in the case?
Yeah.
That was to overcome the fact that I couldn't play his big standard guitars, and they hurt my fingers. Unfortunately, about a year later, he was killed in a construction accident.
Oh, no.
So I had the love of music instilled in me early. And the Beatles came along. We all had garage bands, and we started playing, and candidly, from a very young age up until my early 20s, that was my living. And so I played the bass guitar in those days. And so I've always had a love of music all along, even though it got laid down to raise a family and start a career. And I fortunately am in a place in my life today that you don't want to die with any dreams left undone out there. And so I returned to it recently in a serious way, and I'm having more fun than I did when I was trying to figure out how we were going to get the next gig and survive.
Nice.
So for me, it's very spiritual. It's calming. It's something I can do, and just a place in my life, and I can do what I want to do now. It's not, and that's not even a financial statement. I wish that I'd figured that out 40 years ago, but I can work with the people I want to work with. I can do the things I want to do, and if it's not fun anymore, go do something else.
I love that, Terry. I love it. So some of your musical influences. You mentioned the Beatles, but I'm going over now, guys, for our audience. You know what? I'm sorry. We're going to talk to Terry about this. We're going to talk about the important stuff now. We got the controls out of the way.
Well, for me, it was my influence came bluegrass first, of course, but then it was. And so I grew up with Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys.
That's right, Roly Poly, right?
Yeah, my dad actually even played with them in the Midwest.
Oh, so, wow.
And then for me, of course, it was the Beatles and the Stones, and Duane Allman, I think, is probably the guitar god, and his life was cut short, and Hendrix and a lot of that Southern rock influence. And I'm just dyed-in-the-wool blues, I did a week this past year in Clarksdale, Mississippi, right in the middle of the home of it, and I'm going back this year in May. So, it's all about the blues and rock and roll for me.
Oh, nice. Well, listen, we talked about it about 3 or 4 weeks ago on Control Talk Now. Have you ever seen that movie Muscle Shoals, talking about Duane Allman?
It's interesting. I signed up to get it, and because of the particular cable service I've got, I haven't had a chance to see it, so I guess I'm going to have to buy it. So the answer is no, but I read the book.
Oh, wow. Wow. Well, listen, I tell you what, buy the movie. If you don't absolutely love it, I'll buy it back from you. But there is Dwayne Allman. I'd always known of Dwayne, and went to school in Macon, Georgia. So obviously the Allman brothers were real big down there.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, there's a scene in this thing, Terry, where they're at Muscle Shoals. Dwayne Allman apparently camped out on this guy's doorstep, right?
Right, to get a job.
Yeah. Wilson Pickett came in. They're doing all the music, and Dwayne Allman, this young whippersnapper, walks up and says, "We need to cut Hey Jude." And I forget the guy, and they looked at him and they said, "You're crazy. Why would we do that?" He goes, "That's the biggest band in the world. That's exactly why we do it." They said they went back. While everybody went to lunch, Dwayne reset the music. They came back and they did it, and you see it on this movie. And I tell you what, it is chilling. It is just so incredible.
That point in history is also the most famous quote from Eric Clapton. Are you familiar with that?
No, which one is that?
I can only paraphrase. I wish I had it in front of me, but Eric Clapton witnessed that solo he did on Hey Jude and said, "I will put my guitar down. I will never be that good."
Wow. Oh, Terry, I could go on for hours and hours. Listen, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. And for our listeners out there, come to the 2013 Control Trends Awards. You get to rub elbows with the greats like Terry Swope. And we'll look forward to seeing you in New York, Terry.
Thank you, Eric. Looking forward to it. See you in a couple of weeks.
All right. Have a great one, my friend.